So, how do you know that it's time or when it's time to leave your job? You have this dream, you have this desire, you have this idea that is floating around in your head, but you've been in your corporate job for a while. You've probably experienced some level of success. And to be honest, it's comfortable and probably feels even safer to stay in that job versus really pursuing the dream that you have. So, how do you know when it's time to leave? Well, that's the conversation that we're going to be having today. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the Lead Her Lab. My name is Marsha Flemings Walker. It is my absolute pleasure to have you here. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Let's dive right in. So, here's a quick little history about my experience. I worked for 19 years in hospitality and tourism. I had a very successful career. And for the first half, I was getting promoted, averaging every year and a half or so. And then in the last half of it, I really was focused on helping young professionals accelerate their own careers. And I'd say that for the last, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 years, somewhere there, I really knew for sure that I should be someplace else. I knew that there was something more inside of me that I wanted to offer the world. I understood that where I was serving, the job that I was doing, not that it wasn't important, but that there was just more that I wanted to do. There was more impact I wanted to have in this world. And I had some ideas floating around in my head, but I didn't lock into any one thing just then. And I had to go through a lot of introspection, self awareness, and really exploring what my desire is and building that vision out. I'm saying all that to say that at the end of those 19 years, I had a successful transition from corporate into entrepreneurship. And today I'm going to give to you tips and strategies that you can use and really, I would say, should use if you are looking to transition from corporate. These are things that have helped me to transition from corporate. They have helped other people that I've worked with to transition successfully from corporate into entrepreneurship. All right. And you may even utilize some of these things. Maybe you're not going to be transitioning into entrepreneurship. Maybe you're going to be going back to school, whatever the case may be. You'll still find these strategies or tips and approaches helpful. All right, so let's dive in. One of the very first things you want to do is you want to assess, am I being pushed or pulled? What do I mean by that? Very often when we're in our jobs, we start to feel a sense of uneasiness. And we are not always able to identify immediately what is this agitation. But sometimes we're able to determine, you know what, it's really a discomfort about the work environment, about the culture of the organization. It's really a discomfort because I feel like I should have been promoted already, or whatever it is that's unfavorable about being in that position. We start to feel this agitation. That is when something is pushing you. That is when you feel like the circumstances in the environment that you are working in, they are pushing you out. They're no longer favorable to you. They're no longer comfortable for you. And it just seems to be pushing you out. Now, what I mean by being pulled is where you've created a vision for yourself, where it is that you know what it is that you are working towards, what it is that you want to move on to, what it is that you want to build. So, ideally, when you are transitioning, you want to identify, am I being pulled by a vision that I've created? Am I being pulled by a dream that I'm going to be working to come to fruition? Am I being pulled by another goal that is more relevant to this season of my life? Versus being pushed by the discomfort of a work environment that feels no longer comfortable for you or inviting for you. Not that those things aren't helpful indicators, but those should not be the only things driving you. Because here's the truth, being uncomfortable in that organization, let's say because you have a manager that is not particularly pleasant to work with, you could move into another organization and experience the very same thing. But when you are being pulled by a vision, by a goal that you are working towards, you find that certain discomforts, you are able to navigate those better and with more determination because you know what you are working towards. So you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're just running from place to place because each place feels uncomfortable, because you don't like it, because the manager is not that great of a boss, whatever the discomfort may be. Be pulled by a vision that you're working to create over being pushed out because of any discomfort. All right. So that's the first thing that I would encourage you to do. The second thing that I would encourage you to do is to do a self check, some sort of self evaluation, particularly if you are in a decision making role. If you are a manager, director, supervisor, you have any kind of decision making power. I encourage you strongly to take an examination of your contribution to your team, to your organization in your current role. Have you successfully equipped the team to function without you? Have you successfully prepared someone on your team to transition into your role should the organization choose? But have you equipped them? Have you given them the benefits of all that your knowledge and your expertise and experience have given to you that allowed you to be in that role in the first place? It's important because this is what leadership creates. Leadership creates legacy. And very often people talk about leadership being your ability to influence. And while that is true, if we pursue impact, the influence is a byproduct of it, right? But if you pursue influence, then it may never come. One of the ways to create impact, to build a legacy, and one of the ways that you can determine, is now a good time to move on? Have I prepared myself and my team for my transition? Is evaluating, have I prepared them sufficiently? Have I given all that I have from my experience, my expertise, from my knowledge, from all that I've garnered? Have I given them all that I can to prepare them for the next? Leadership is not just about your success. It's also about the success of the people who have been walking and working with you. So do a self-check, do a self-examination. Have I really given the best of myself to this role, to this team? Have I prepared them for success as much as I have to give to them on their journey? And if you are confident that all that you have already poured into them as much as they were willing to receive, then that may be an indicator that you have set yourself up for a successful transition. All right, so the third thing that you want to be doing is you want to establish if you've taken ownership. And if you have not, then now is the time to do so. What are you taking ownership of? Have you taken ownership of your career growth, your career development? Very often what happens is people sit in organizations and they have the aspirations and they want to grow within that organization. They want the promotion, but they don't take ownership of it. They think, well, if they see my worth, they will reward me. They'll give me the promotion. And they have no conversation with anyone about their aspirations for growth. They have no conversation with anyone about the vision that they have for the growth within the organization, what position it is they're aiming for, and what path may be ideal for them to take to get there. That means you haven't taken ownership. If you're sitting back and thinking, you know what? If they wanted to give me that promotion, they would have given it to me. They must have seen my work. If it's all about them, meaning the decision makers, and not about, okay, well, I haven't spoken to my manager to indicate what my intentions or aspirations are. I haven't spoken to human resources. I have not applied for the positions that they have posted that are available or that I know are available, but I expect it to come to me. If that has been your approach, you have not taken ownership. The truth of the matter is your career development and your growth is your responsibility. I've shared before on different platforms and in speaking engagements that I've had, I've shared that one of the things I was clear on was that the organization I was working for owed me nothing but my paycheck at the end of the month. So if there was a position that I wanted, it was up to me to pursue it. Now, there were times that I received promotions that I did not pursue. In fact, most of my promotions came that way. But I was clear that at the end of the day, it was up to me to determine where I wanted to grow to and then what I had to do to create that growth. And if it ever came to a point where it was clear that that growth was not going to happen within that organization, I knew that I had done everything that I could have done everything that was within my power and under my influence to create that growth within the organization. But if they ever said, this is the lid for you in this organization, I was okay with it because that didn't stop my career development. It just meant the end of my development with that organization. That could have only happened because I took ownership of my development. So I got rid of any entitlement and I assessed what is the potential for growth here? What are the opportunities for growth? Does it align with the vision that I have for my future self? And I make my decisions based on that. So the question for you is, have you taken ownership? All right. So the final thing that you want to determine is that you have an exit strategy. You have a plan in place that you are following for your transition, wherever you are transitioning to. What does that mean? What does that look like? That means looking at every single aspect of your life that transition could potentially affect and put in place a plan that covers any foreseeable impact in that particular area. So some common areas that may be affected if you're transitioning from corporate into entrepreneurship, corporate into going back to school. For example, your finances may be affected. So what level of savings do you want to have? I'll share this with you. In transitioning out of corporate into entrepreneurship, one of the things that I considered was my finances, right? I had a young family. My husband was in a good job, making good money. We had good savings, and we could last for 2 years on the savings alone, right? And so we thought, we're in good standing, everything's okay. And, he's still working, he's still making money. I'm the one that's going to be transitioning. Well, I end my corporate career the end of March 2020. And what happens next? We know what happens next. The whole world shuts down. And so does the job that my husband has, because he's in an industry that is heavily impacted by what was happening globally. And so had we not been in a position where we had planned for 2 years worth of savings to cover our expenses, I cannot imagine what would have happened, right? So again, this is what you want to think about. What is one area of your life, or what are the areas of your life that are going to be affected by this transition? And what do I need to put in place before making that transition? Or what can I put in place before making that transition to minimize any negative impact of that transition on my finances, on my family, on my relationships, on my health, whatever it is? But you want to be making an exit strategy. And it comes back full circle. An exit strategy really is only going to be effective when it is what you are being pulled by, what is calling you. So how do you know when it is time to leave? You know when it is time to leave when you have taken ownership of your career development. You've done all that is within your power within the organization that you are in. You are clear on the dream and vision that you are working towards, and that is what is pulling you. You have successfully put in place a plan and a strategy that allows you to transition with minimal negative impact to your life. All right. So I'd love to know if you found this helpful. And if there's any topic in particular that you want to have a conversation about. Are you someone that's thinking about transitioning from where you are into entrepreneurship or, studies, whatever the case may be? I'd love to hear from you. So drop it in the comments. I'm going to be looking out for it. And I will also share some links with you where you can pick up a copy of my leadership book, From Leadership to Legacy, as that's something that I touched on today. All right. So I will see you in the next video. It is time to go out and lead.